Thank you for being here today. My name is Katie Egan, and I am the CEO and co-founder of CourseArc. And I know that what most of you are facing right now is pretty scary and unprecedented, given the current situation. So our hope today is that we can support you in whatever way possible. So whether or not you already have an online offerings and you're rapidly expanding them, or if you're just starting out, again, our goal is that we can support you in whatever way possible. Okay. The agenda for today, I just want to share with you a quick bit of information about the flow. So I'm going to do a short introduction about our company, and then I'm going to share some tips for managing the development of content. Then I'm going to actually assume the role of a faculty member, and I'm going to convert content that was built for face-to-face to online, and then we will take questions at the end. So please make sure that, again, use the chat if there's anything that comes up during the session. Okay, so I wanted to start by sharing the core values for CourseArc, because this is really going to speak to the presentation that follows today. So first of all, we do believe that it is possible to build really high quality online content that is engaging for students. Secondly, we believe that the best people to build content are those that work inside your organization. So we are designed to support organizations that want to develop, manage, and own their own content. And we really are designed to support building internal capacity within the organization as you scale and expand high quality offerings. And then lastly, we truly believe that online instruction should be accessible to all. So regardless of your disability, your device, or your geography, we feel like everyone should have access. And these core values guide us in everything that we do. Two things that I wanted to mention. There's two aspects to developing content that are really important: the content management piece and the content authoring. A lot of times, both of these pieces are not in place when you're trying to build online programs. And so we are going to speak to both of these today. They're both really important. So let me go ahead and just talk about content management. Again, I'm not going to read the slide, but just big picture, it's the organization controlling the design and the development process. So there are some things that you see on the slide that might take place with content management, but the idea is that you're centrally working as a system to help make sure that you can develop content rapidly, have standards, and be very efficient. And the types of people in your organization that are most likely going to be involved in this would be instructional designers, e-learning managers, perhaps department chairs, curriculum specialists, maybe even people from IT, LMS admins. So that's really the content management piece. And then the second piece is the actual development of online content. So that's content authoring. So this is obviously just building the content in whatever tools that you have available and then delivering it to students. And the people in your organization that are most likely going to be building the content are teachers, professors, maybe even adjuncts. You might have people in HR, depending on what you're building, subject matter experts. And again, depending on how many instructional designers you have, they might be helping with this capability as well. And our big message today is that you need as many people that can build content as possible, or you're not going to be able to expand, especially given the current situation. So I just wanted to mention both of those pieces before we get started. Again, just for anyone that might have joined us late, welcome. I'm going to go ahead and transition in just a minute to another screen. All right, so what I'm going to share now is really speaking to the content management aspect, building some processes and putting some systems into place to help you be as efficient as possible. So what I wanted to do is start out with some tips, and then as I said earlier, I'm going to actually demonstrate moving some content online. So our first tip is we really believe that the best content is built by teams. So again, I know that all of you are in different situations, but if possible, we think it's really important to form collaborative teams as you transition content online. And the reason is pretty simple. If you only have, most organizations only have very few people that would have the skills needed, all of the skills needed to put stuff online. And so therefore, if you can form some teams that can support many different departments, many different disciplines, and each team have different skills and different functions, it's going to help you be much more efficient. So these are some of the roles, and again, you don't even need to have these titles, but some of the roles that we like to recommend as we work with clients. So obviously your instructional designers are going to have a huge role. They can, again, help with creating templates and boilerplates. You might also consider having a role called a curator. A curator would be someone who actually helps define resources. Given the situation that you're encountering right now, a curator really could be anyone. I mean, it could be just like a power user, it could be a librarian, it could be a TA or someone inside your department, but this could be someone that could look for resources for a teacher or a professor. So they might be, challenged with finding some images or graphs or charts or videos. So that's a useful role. And again, they could support multiple professors or teachers at once. You obviously have your subject matter expert. Again, that's most likely going to be a professor or a teacher, and then also a content reviewer. So if you do have someone who's able to vet or look at the content or have constructive feedback, maybe even being a coach, that would be great. So again, the current demands, it's going to be really difficult for you to put all this content online unless you really have as many people that can build as quickly as possible. So I just wanted to share that. All right, tip number 2, moving on. If you are not familiar with open educational resources and their 5 R's, we strongly recommend that you become familiar with these. We think that you should use the 5 R's to guide your development strategy and philosophy. It's retain, reuse, revise, remix, and redistribute. Again, I'm not going to read through all of those, but the idea is that you want to identify things that you can build centrally, reuse as many different places as possible, so you're being really efficient and wise with your resources, and also build templates and other model lessons and other things that can easily be revised or remixed. So this is something that we really support, and we think it's a great strategy, rather than have everyone in a silo building your own content, more of a systems approach. All right, so our third tip is to develop reusable resources centrally. And this is, again, building upon the previous tip. We support the 5 R's, and we think that it's very, very important. Based on all the experience we've had, we've worked with a lot of clients, and our best recommendation is anything that you can build centrally that then multiple courses, instructors, and students can use. You're just going to be saving time, and you're also going to be relieving a lot of stress, and taking work off the plate of your faculty, who are probably extremely stressed right now. So I wanted to give you guys a couple of different examples of what I mean by things that you could create centrally and share. So first, a lot of faculty are probably moving to discussions, right, as they move online. So this is an example of a discussion rubric, and you can see my screen. Our product is built for responsive, so it's kind of flipping in and out, but I'm going to show you guys the table view. So this is a discussion rubric that's built for a very specific topic. It's on World War I. But this is something that if someone wanted a really high quality rubric, it was a high value discussion that had points that they could easily tailor to their needs. So that's one example. And then this is another example of a discussion scoring tool that's much more generic. So this is just kind of a generic discussion discussion scoring tool, a way for instructors to give students credit that they don't have to modify at all. So this is clearly something that could be easily reused. A couple other examples, an instructor checklist. So this is one for a traditional semester class in higher ed. Again, this might need to be modified given the certain circumstances, but if you are faced with having instructors that are going online or teaching online for the very first time, they might need some tips. What should you do after week 1? What should you do after the start date? So this has just very, very practical guidelines. For example, reach out to anyone who has never logged in after 3 days, contact them by email, things like that an instructor who's brand new, they might not even think about that. So that's something, again, you could develop that centrally and then just make this available to all of the instructors in your course. Another example, that of something that again could be shared widely is you could give tips, and this could also be enhanced with video as well. You could give tips for leading synchronous meetings. A lot of instructors now are taking advantage of Zoom, or they might be using Blackboard Collaborate or other tools, GoToMeeting. So these are responsibilities or suggestions that you could give for both instructors and students. So just kind of, you know, best practices. And then this is another one from Zoom that I actually found on Twitter that I think they're going to share with you. This is a great, very practical settings to use with Zoom, especially if anyone on today is maybe with the younger kids. It's even more important if you're using high schoolers. So again, the idea here is that you'd centrally develop resources that you can share. So this is an entire module that we helped develop with one of our clients, and this is a student orientation. So there are a couple of very small aspects in this orientation that are revised, such as the instructor and the course outline, but everything else is completely able to be used as is. So again, this is great. It really reduces the workload on the instructors. They know that the students will have an orientation built in. This has, you know, discussion guidelines, et cetera, et cetera. And then this is another example. This is the same exact client who provides an instructor orientation. So they use the LMS Moodle. This has how to set up a profile, how to post an announcement, lots of great tips for them, lots of videos. So this is all great tools that are developed centrally so the instructors don't need to reinvent the wheel. All right, so I'm going to move on to the next tip, which is consider bandwidth. Right now, there is pretty much every student in the country, every teacher in the country, every employee, everyone is online, and all of the systems that are very reliable are being taxed in ways they never ever envisioned. And there's huge, huge increases in the number of concurrent users. I know that there were serious issues with Schoology, which is an LMS. It's mainly you find that in K-12 school systems, but that was down for several days this week. And so definitely make sure that you consider bandwidth when you're developing, especially now. And so a couple of things that you might want to consider. Synchronous sessions, so having the students all come online at the same time, that's going to eat up a lot more bandwidth than allowing them to work at their own pace. So for example, if you are worried about bandwidth, a better choice might be to have the assignments posted on Monday, and then maybe they are due on Friday, so the students can work at their own time and space, versus telling every student they need to be online from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. So again, depends on your system and what works for you, but that definitely is key. Also, just avoid long videos. Any video, you know, you might just think, oh, well, I can just record a lecture and put it online, but any video that's longer than 2 to 3 minutes really might be difficult for some students to stream. So consider that. And we do have a couple of articles about bandwidth that I think are going to be shared via the chat. So we will do that. The other thing that we just want to make sure that you know, make sure you have a backup plan. So having a printed copy of your lesson plan, that even like in the case of, you know, an LMS going down or the server's not working, that could be emailed, is a great idea. So just make sure that you have a backup plan in a way that you can get some content to students if needed. All right, so last tip for today is to use templates and boilerplate to speed up development. So in addition to creating a lot of resources centrally, we think that the best thing that you can do really to support rapid development is to help the instructors that are new, or maybe not new, but maybe they're not as savvy, to help them really frame and outline their lessons that are online. So I'm going to move forward. The most well-known tool that people use as a, to structure online courses would be Gagne's 9 events of instruction. I'd say this is probably the most widely used outline that people follow for online learning. We would suggest that, again, just to be efficient, that you consider maybe doing a truncated version of this, given the current situation. So you could build in gain attention, but you could also just leave that out. But at a minimum, you'd want to have the objectives, recall or prior learning, present the content that they need to know, allow them to practice, and then assess their performance. So you might not get through every single event, but to hit the main ones. And we have a lot of tools built within our software that help with rapid development. And but regardless of what tool you're using, you can apply all of these concepts. So you can definitely use the same rationale to build these inside your LMS, or even using a Word document. So, all right, so the first thing that you should consider is using boilerplate. Boilerplate refers to a template that can be reused over and over again, and then individually reconfigured and edited as needed to meet the needs of the specific course. So boilerplate works like this. I'm going to go ahead and show you. For example, I am an instructional designer, and I know that whenever an instructor has a video that they are going to use in their online course, I want to make sure they have directions, they have a video, and they have a little question for the students to answer afterwards. So what I can do is I can create boilerplate for them to do that, and then I can go in as the instructor and just choose video. And what that does here is now I have all 3 of these blocks that are immediately populated on my page. And now as the instructor, it really reduces the work for me. All I need to do is click on this little block. I can go in and edit the boilerplate to meet my needs. And they even have little brackets in here for me to understand what I'm supposed to do here to really tailor the learning to the students. So again, regardless of what tool you're using, you can create boilerplate, model templates that can be easily edited. So this is just a great concept, is boilerplate. Another tool that we have is called the icon and text feature, the icon bank. So one of the biggest mistakes that we've seen, again, we've done a lot of work with clients. One of the biggest mistakes we've seen is that teachers, when they transition to online, they often leave out a lot of important details that they would normally say verbally in the classroom. And so directions for online students are really, really important. And so this is it's similar, very similar to boilerplate. But what I can do is now, if I'm going in and I'm an instructor and I want to add an icon and text block on the page, I can go ahead and select that. I'm going to go ahead and pick my icon. And again, I'm going to do something similar. I'm just going to choose the video icon. When I choose that icon, it has starter text that appears for me. So again, similar to the boilerplate, this would be just a very easy way for you to have starter text. And what it's going to do, it's going to make it really clear for the instructors who are building content what they need to do. And everything's going to be very consistent and high quality. All right, and then our final suggestion is to build an actual template that combines all of these elements that can be used by anyone to create an online lesson. So it is going to take some upfront work by your instructional designers or your technologists, but in the end, this is going to be your best tool in the long run, to enable more people on your team to develop content and to develop it much, much faster. So what I wanted to do is take a look at one of the templates that we have used with a client. I'm going to go ahead and change my screen. So this is a sample template. Again, this is built in CourseArt for the purpose of this demo, but you could certainly build something very similar in whatever tool you are using. Okay, so this is a template that is modeled after not all, but most of Gagne's 9 events. And remember, the idea here is that the instructor would get a copy of this template when they're ready to build a module or a lesson, and then they would use whatever content they have and transition it into CourseArt using this template. So a template is going to obviously remove some of the creative control But what it's going to do is it's going to free up your instructional designers to work more on the big pictures and big picture rather. And it's also really going to allow your SMEs to build their content quickly and not need as much hand holding. And as they get more savvy, they can obviously be more creative and look at things, make changes as they explore new ways to develop online learning. So what I want to show, I'm going to walk you through the template here, and then I'm going to actually use it. All right, so again, I have gain attention is the first page. Then I have the overview page. And then what I've done in this template is I've given them two possibilities for prior learning. So the instructor can choose whichever one they want to use, and then they would just delete the other. And then I've given them several different options for sharing content. So I'll go through those as we in just a minute. I've given them two options for having a practice activity, and I've given them three options for an assessment. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to switch gears, and I am going to pretend that I am an instructor. And so this instructor has never taught online before. And the materials that they have a manual that the students have access to. It's 155 pages, so this is really like an online textbook. And then they also have a slide deck that they use for class every week. So I'm going to build one content for the week 2. And of course, they don't have any instructor notes at all. They just kind of have what's in their head. So this is, I think, probably pretty representative of what some of your actual instructors are dealing with. So what I'm going to do is go through and show you how easy it is for them to start to build content if they have a template. All right. So just get my bearings here. Some pre-built content. All right. So the first one is gain attention. And this is the first event in Gagne's 9 events. So the instructor would go in, they would edit this page, and you can see here, they already have a poll set up. They already have questions. So all they really need to do if they want to choose to use this activity is change the poll question. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to edit it. And then I'm going to swap in a question. Now, I'm obviously going to pull in a question that I think is going to be relevant, not only based on the current situation, but also because this class is all about stress, identifying people that are at risk for stress, and then later on in the course, they're going to be learning ways to intervene with students. So the instructor is going to just fill out the form. They're going to change, again, the template to meet their needs. They're going to save this, and boom, it's done. Okay, so gaining attention is done. All right, the overview page then, again, this template is set up for them. All they need to do is add their objectives at the top. So I'm going to go ahead and edit the page. Going to hover my mouse over the block and edit it. And again, I do have objectives from this professor. I will say that they are not the best objectives. They're not measurable, but we're going to let that slide for now. So that they're going to go ahead and publish the objectives. Those are done. Okay, so the instructor then has two options that have been set up in this template for them. Again, remember, this is just generic content. It doesn't match what they're teaching, but they can see, all right, this is a sample vocabulary activity that I can use, or I can do a quiz for prior learning, okay? They decide there's a lot of really important vocabulary terms they want to do in this lesson, and so they're going to use the vocabulary terms. In this example, you can see that the instructional designer has been very careful, and so the directions don't even need to be modified. They've written them in a way that it can work for any course, which is great. So I'm going to go ahead and click edit this page. I'm going to edit this. And these are all terms that we're going to remove. One thing I want to mention is one really great task for a curator is they not only can look for resources, but they could always help populate things like a glossary. So in this case, the curator who's been helping out this instructor has already gone in and populated the glossary. So it's going to be really easy for them to add terms. If it wasn't in the glossary, they would just have to manually type it in. So they're going to add these terms very quickly. Again, this is just saving a lot of time, making it really quick, really easy to build content by using the glossary. And I think most LMSs have a glossary feature. So again, they've decided that they're going to use the vocabulary. I'm going to go back one level and I'm going to delete the quiz page. They've decided they do not need that page. So we're going to go ahead and delete the quiz page and we're going to go back to content. Okay. So there is a pretty significant amount of ideas here for presenting the content. So you can, one page is just text and images. One page is image hotspots. This one is how to use a chart and a graph. This one is tabs and accordion. And this one is taking notes. And then you have the video. So they do know that they definitely want to add notes. So there is a book that the students have to refer to. So I'm going to go ahead and edit this page. And they are going to, we're going to change, change these. So we're going to have them take notes on 3 different things. We're going to have them take notes on cumulative stress. They're going to take notes on traumatic stress. And they're going to take notes on criteria for PTSD. Okay. Oh, I didn't save that. Okay. So I'm going to remove the other rows that refer to the bones, and then I'm going to ask them to, I'm going to have them take notes on, let's see. I'm going to have them take notes on 3 important points. Okay. So now they are going to have the graphic organizer, and then again, we are going to tailor the directions. So on each category, or I'm going to say topic, using your online book, refer to pages 35 to 45. Okay. All right. So this is going to be one way that they're presenting content. Secondly, there is a video that they definitely want to include. So we're going to go ahead. You can see now we have a template. I'm going to go ahead and add a video in. And we are going to customize this to see play button to learn about stress over time. And publish that. Okay. And then we are also going to do one with tabs and accordions. So I'm going to go ahead and model this. So there's types of distress that I want them to learn about. So the first one is going to be cognitive. Second one is going to be emotional. Third is behavioral. And this one is physical. And the last one is spiritual. So then I am going to have Stacy help me out. She's going to go in behind the scenes. She's going to fill out some of that content for me. So I would go in and then obviously customize the content to make it apply to, and actually before Stacy does that, I'm going to go in and just delete this. So I'm going to delete the pieces that I don't need. All right, and then, so I have some pretty good content in here. So again, I would be going back in and deleting the pages that I don't need. So I'm going to go ahead and go to practice. I've decided that I'm going to do a quiz. Again, I already have a quiz on this page, so all I need to do is go in and modify the question. So I'm going to show you guys how I do one question, and then I am going to make this scored. So I'm going to do one question, and then I'm going to do my answer choices. And last one is burnout, and I'm going to change the correct answer. Again, I'm going to have Stacy go in behind me and fill that out. And then finally, for the assessment, I've looked at the assessment. So there's a quiz, there's a discussion, and I am going to do a writing assignment. Again, this is not the same. This is not the same type of content for me. It's very different. So I'm just going to remove the stuff that doesn't apply. But what I'm going to do, the whole lesson is going to be about stress. So I'm going to give them a writing prompt, and I'm going to ask them to write about someone who has been identified with PTSD. And again, I will be able to see everything that they've done. I'm going to go ahead and remove all the other stuff. And there we go. I'm going to go back one level and just remove a couple things from the lesson. I didn't use graphs and charts. I'm going to remove that, and I didn't use image hotspots, and I didn't use sorting. So again, this is just another way, if you're able to build a lesson model, it's going to allow someone who's not as familiar with online learning to really get in and be able to customize things very, very easily. Now, obviously, the last step is I'd want them to go back and change the titles to make them obviously match and align with the content. But this is a very stripped down version, but you can see that they've accessed some prior learning, they've given them some content, they've practiced, and then they can assess their writing. And they've also built in a lot of things that either the instructor can grade or the student will have feedback on, which is really, really important. So I am going to pause here. I just want to kind of do a wrap up before we start with questions. So today we wanted to share strategies that have worked really well with us and our clients for quickly transitioning content to an online format. So again, we highlighted trying to form functional teams to help increase your development potential, and at the same time really help you build your internal capacity for going online. Consider using the 5R as your philosophy to guide your development process. Develop as much content essentially as possible that can be then reused and remixed, and then following up on that same concept, using templates to really speed up the development time and free up your instructional designers to help with more strategic goals. Always consider bandwidth, especially now. Always have a backup plan. And again, if we can help in any way, we work with a lot of clients. We have a lot of experience with helping them go online. And our goal is always to make sure that you're able to transition and do it yourself. So we're happy to help in whatever way we can.